The one thing about this Penn State football team that not enough people are talking about is just that this group is different.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State football. As always, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. My name is Zach Seyko, and I'm your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State wrestling. Help me welcome back very special guest, Matt Freiler, Penn State alum, sports broadcaster, but most people know him as the artist, Matty Fresh, behind hit Penn State theme songs like Trace McSorley, Jahan Dotson, and his latest single, So Good. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So we're going to go over, this is a final prediction show for the whole season, for week one here against Nevada. Is Penn State national title bound? We're going to have season overall predictions, stat predictions. Does Drew Allar go over his passing yards? Nicholas Singleton and Kaytron Allen, do they break the rushing record? But it's what's different about this team that really sets them apart from previous teams that, yeah, they had buzz. They were top 10. Hey, last year's team made the college football playoff semifinal. But Matt, I do feel like with the addition of Jim Knowles, with what they were able to return, this team is truly, the program is truly all in. That is what is different about this James Franklin team compared to all the ones over the past decade plus.
Yeah, Zach, great to be here. As always, man, we're a day away. It's finally here. Yep. The weather has been perfect here in the Commonwealth this week. You think about Trace McSorley returning to Happy Valley to start what I think will inevitably be a long and successful coaching career for him. And like you said, to top it off, we got the best situation on paper that Penn State's had since 2017 or maybe even better than 2017. So like you said, to top it all off, we got a new anthem out there. So good. Thank you so much to Penn State. I've been feeling the love. Everyone who's checked it out already, if you haven't, go listen to it. But I'm super, super pumped for this season. I got a feeling like I haven't had in quite a while.
And that's just it. Let's begin with the priorities, because there are obviously some things that are going to be overlooked about this Penn State team. But for you, is it the coordinator duo? Again, for me, that's what it's, and it goes beyond the coordinator duo, Matt. It's the addition of Jim Knowles, but retaining Andy Kotelnicki, and then you upgraded your running back coach. J1 Sider leaves pretty late in the offseason, and you're able to recalibrate and potentially even upgrade that spot with somebody that's not only a quality running backs coach, but someone that's been a part of not one, but two. And if I'm mistaken, it's either two or three, but multiple national championship winning teams in Stan Drayton. You're able to retain, just keep Anthony Poindexter, right? There's always buzz that he's going to be ready to go for a head coaching job. James Franklin has said this, and I couldn't agree with him anymore, that from a personnel standpoint, this group in terms of players and coaches are the best in his tenure at Penn State.
Yeah, what I keep coming back to is, you have kids on this roster like Drew Allar, like Nick Singleton, and like Dennis-Sutton, who, they were ready for the NFL. They probably would have been high draft picks. I think all three of those guys could have had a crack at the first round had they declared. They certainly get a ton of love from scouts already. So to get a bonus full year out of those three, and then you could even really throw Zane Durant into that mix, but just talking about the 5 stars that came in at the top of the class back in 2022, and nobody expected to have these kids around for a 4th year. So that's what I keep coming back to. Coaches are coaches. They're important. I think some people value the coaching staff a little more than I have. I don't want to take away from J1 Sider. I think he did an amazing job while he was here. And obviously Drayton has a great resume. We'll see on that one. And I think people are a lot higher on Knowles than I am. I'm going to wait and see with that too and how he fits in to Penn State. I think it could be a benefit. I want it to be a benefit that's worth the $3.2 million he was paid.
Is that not an upgrade over Tom Allen?
I would say on paper, yes, it's an upgrade, especially because he can, especially because we have the Ohio State knowledge now of things that maybe he could take from them. But again, Tom Allen wasn't getting paid $3.2 million. I know nobody cares about the money; it's just a number. But I have to think about that a little bit when it comes to what did Penn State potentially have to sacrifice. But without getting too far down that road, this roster is loaded. To me, it's all about the players. The players are the story for me this year. The guys who came back to win a national title. They saw Michigan do it in 23 when their guys came back. Saw Ohio State do it with a ton of their guys last year. And they know they only had one choice, and that's to all buy in and come back. And, you could just tell by watching James Franklin's press conference on Monday, he even seems like he's a little more comfortable. He's got a different attitude this year. It seems, just kind of reading between the lines a little bit. And I think even James is a little happier with where they were now coming out of camp than last year.
No, and I like that observation that you just kind of see someone who's a little more relaxed and in year 12, or at least we haven't seen that maybe since that 2017 season where, when you bring back Saquon Barkley and Trace McSorley and you have Joe Moorhead, there hasn't, like I said, been really that nucleus. And I would say, Joe Moorhead and Andy Kotelnicki are comparable. Jim Knowles compared to Brent Pry. That's what I mean, is that it's those nuances in the coaching staff. But you talk about the core. I want to focus on the core now because the coaching staff is elite. Top 5 across the board. And honestly, the objectively the best coordinator duo in the country with Jim Knowles and Andy Kotelnicki teaming up with the only defensive coordinators slow down Andy Kotelnicki's offense a season ago. Notre Dame didn't. Oregon didn't. It was just Ohio State. And now he's on your side. He's a good guy. The personnel, though, from the players. Drew Allar, 4th-year quarterback, didn't transfer in. He's been with the program for 4 consecutive years. 3rd year starting, 2nd year with Kotelnicki. So there's that continuity. There's that consistency. When you point out, hey, Michigan won, Ohio State won, they brought back the nucleus, you still need to bring back certain components of the nucleus. An offensive line that James Franklin says has 7 starting caliber players. I mean, you could argue that because of Anthony Donko and Nolan Rucci, that 100% of the starting offensive line is back for this season. Okay, you lose Tyler Warren, but you have 3 capable tight ends, and Khalil Dinkins is going to lead the way. But the offensive line, in conjunction with Nicholas Singleton and Kaytron Allen, for the best backfield in the entire country. Drew Allar as that veteran signal caller, whether you believe he is elite or not, he is still better than most quarterbacks in the country, and other college football teams would take him at this point in time, except for maybe a select few destinations. But that's the core with J.J. McCarthy. Okay, Will Howard transferred in, but they had the offensive line. They had the running backs. They upgraded their coaching staff. Michigan had extreme continuity. Ohio State made some select additions that just that put them over the edge to get to this point. So a national title run is absolutely in the cards for Penn State. That should not be questioned.
Yeah, and I think obviously a lot of the stuff you're saying, this has been the narrative all spring, all summer. This narrative that started out with just Penn State media has now translated over to national media, where they're finally starting to realize now as well, and Penn State's being picked almost across the board to be national champs. They're being picked in publications like this one, the College Football Bible with Phil Steele. I mean, I've never once seen him pick Penn State to win it all. Opening that magazine and seeing that for the first time in 20 years, your jaw drops. So yeah, this narrative that, is going around about Penn State has translated. And I think you kind of look to the areas, Zach, that maybe some people aren't talking about yet. I think one of the things that with Drew, I mean, it kind of just feels like destiny with Drew, because when he came in as a true freshman, he probably would have started at any other program in the country as a true freshman. Obviously, there was an interesting situation there with Sean Clifford and James Franklin being a Sean Clifford guy till the end. And like you said, Drew Allar wanting time to develop under a veteran quarterback like Clifford. But now he not only is okay with sitting his true freshman season when he probably could have started everywhere else, now he's going to come back. So you just don't see it with a player at his talent level that's willing to commit to a single program and put the greater good of Penn State above himself. And yeah, maybe he's not going to win the Heisman. Maybe he's not going to have the flashiest numbers. Maybe people are going to look at his box score every week and say, oh, he threw for 150 yards. That's an underwhelming game. None of that matters to Drew Allar right now. What matters to Drew Allar is to win every single game this season and to fulfill that destiny to when he was sitting on the bench throughout 2022. And he realized this sucks right now because I could be playing, but I'm sacrificing it for down the road. Here it is. This is what he sacrificed it for, and it paid off in dividends. Now he's got a roster and a core that they can realistically win a national championship with.
Winning teams run the football a lot. Penn State's bread and butter is the ground game, the rushing attack. You have the offensive line to do it. You have the backfield to do it. So strong of a backfield that they're even going to have 3 running back formations. So Drew Allar's job gets a little easier because of the supporting cast. Oh, and we haven't even mentioned that they just upgraded the wide receiver room with not 1, not 2, but 3 high caliber wide receivers out of the transfer portal. So with all of that being said, is this team definitely natty bound? Do they win a national title? We're going to make our final season predictions here. Talk about some stat predictions as well. People will appreciate that. That is all coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's show is brought to you by Gametime. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing else like it. But let's be real for a second. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. Now that's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. You can pull up Gametime, and in just a couple of taps, you'll see those amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. And if you're looking for tickets, last-minute tickets to Penn State football games, well, Gametime has them. And probably one of the best features in Gametime is getting those seat views ahead of time. So if you've never been to Beaver Stadium, you've never been to a Penn State football home game, you want to know what your point of view is going to look like? You have that with Gametime, so you're not second-guessing yourself. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. And before we get back to the podcast, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from all of you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered in for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that is lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link down in the show notes. Thanks so much for helping us out. So I think it's fair to start with the big picture. Record, game by game. Oh, we don't have that kind of time. But final record, do they win a conference title? Do they win a national championship? Who are the teams that they would most likely face, and the teams that you wouldn't necessarily, Matt, want to see them face? I know which teams I have in mind here. I do think Penn State, again, this is a Penn State podcast, so I'm going to err on the side of, since this team can do it, they will do it. It's kind of like the same thing. The alignment was there for Michigan, Ohio State. Now it's Penn State. I don't see another program with another setup like that. Sure, injuries could derail, and again, we'll cross that bridge if it happens. But right now, with what they have on paper, the blueprint is exactly how it looks with the past 2 national title winning teams. So I'm going to go with Penn State here, but of course, anything can happen at any given moment. I do think they go 12-0. I do think they beat Ohio State. National championship, obviously, circumstances are going to have to fall into place, of course. They stay healthy. They get some correct matchups. But I do think they're better than Ohio State. I do think they win that game in Columbus. I think it's a stronger chance that they beat Oregon, so they win those big games. They get to the Big Ten championship. I'm expecting them to play Oregon because Oregon will hold the tiebreaker over Ohio State for losing to Texas and Penn State. I think Oregon will finish 11-1. If they don't, then I guess Ohio State would get back into that conversation, or maybe you see a dark horse team like in Illinois end up in the Big Ten championship. So tiebreakers in mind, but Penn State, I think, would still be better with what they have on paper, wins that game against everybody else in the Big Ten title. As for a national championship, so since I think they can win, and I think they will win, the teams that I do not want to see them play, there's one in particular, it's Alabama. I don't think Alabama, I think Alabama's being underrated to an extent. There is so much talent, but Kalen DeBoer, after 1 year with players that didn't really fit his system, and people have kind of sold out on Kalen. Kalen DeBoer nearly won a national title with Washington. Okay, he made that Washington program so much better. I think people are forgetting that DeBoer is one of the best coaches in all of college football. That team is only going to get better. It's not about how they start, it's about how they finish. So I would say Alabama. Of course, Clemson's going to be there. You don't want to really play Texas. Those are the other kind of two juggernauts. But Clemson's very similar to Penn State. And I think, honestly, they might play any two or three of those teams in a postseason run.
Yeah, starting with the regular season, I landed on 11-1. And it was kind of because of something you'd referenced before with the injuries. If Penn State still had Bo Pribula as QB2, I'd be in lockstep with you at 12-0.
Okay.
It's hard to ask Drew Allar to stay healthy for 12 games. I know he has a really good offensive line, and that helps.
Well, and they're going to run the football a ton.
Yeah, and that does help, but that doesn't change the fact that he's got a massive target on his back now because all the Big Ten has heard up to the lead up in this season is how Penn State's going to win a national championship and how Drew Allar's the golden boy, and he's going to have a massive target on his back. I think if you think we saw some dirty plays last year in the pile with Drew Allar, expect some ankles to be twisted and some extracurriculars because there's going to be some guys that are coming after Drew to try to knock him out of the game. He's at that level of player now that a lot of game plans are going to be focused on him defensively. So, yeah, maybe he gets dinged up for a half or one game. And, obviously I'm not super confident in the QB2 situation right now. So I think that could be a potential for 11-1. Plus, last year I was, so head over heels about Penn State being 11-1 for the first time since 2008, by the way, that I want to make sure people realize 11-1 around here is a massive accomplishment. It's not something that Penn State does very often. So that would be fine. That hits the over win total at 10.5 as well. That
one loss is to Ohio State, or is it to somebody else?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask me that. I don't.
Or do you have because I'm hearing when you say, "Hey, I don't trust QB2." Are you getting Taquan Roberson vibes on the road at a Kinnick with Iowa again?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I think you'd have to tape your arms behind your back and wear a blindfold to be as terrible as he was. But no, I think pick a random game like at Iowa or some weird game, Nebraska, like just one of those weird games where it's going to be closer than experts say it will. I think Ohio State's the one they get up for and they finally beat the Buckeyes. But yeah, pick a weird game, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, whatever it may be, one of those weird ones that's always kind of snuck up on Penn State. Maybe they drop one. But, yeah, thankfully the Big Ten championship will still be on the table. I do expect it to be Penn State, Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. I think Oregon takes a little bit of a fall off this year. You said Illinois is a dark horse. Can't believe I'm saying this. For me, it's the Michigan Wolverines. I think they'll be in the mix at the end of the year for a playoff bid. And if we're talking teams from other conferences that, might make it in, you have to figure SEC, your Georgia, your Texas, your Alabama. They'd probably get a fourth team in. I'm looking at this Oklahoma LSU game at the very end of the year to potentially decide another spot, right? Both those teams could be in the mix. And then, your Big Ten, you're going to have Penn State, you're going to have Ohio State, Oregon, and I think Michigan. So there's 8 teams combined from the Big Ten and the SEC. You have the 2 power conference champs to get you to 10, and then Notre Dame and your group of 5. So there's your playoff. Out of those 12, I think you make a great point with Alabama. Would not want to see Georgia either. I think Georgia potentially wins the national championship last year, if not for losing Carson Beck in the SEC championship game. Now, obviously, Notre Dame fans will push back on that. I don't want to get into it with Notre Dame fans. I mean, you got one up on us. I know that's been the back and forth all season. Listen, I got nothing to say. They beat us head-to-head. Congratulations. I hope we get to see them again. They would be an opponent I'm looking forward to playing. Georgia, Alabama, Texas, those are not the ones that you want to see in the first round. Maybe later on in the semifinals, but not in the first round.
I don't know that I would want to see. I highlight Alabama in particular because I think the ceiling is limitless for that team. I think if they hit their stride at the right time and Kalen DeBoer gets them to all be in lockstep with one another, that's a team that I don't know that anybody stops them. I mean, I went on the record to say that's my national championship matchup. Penn State over Alabama. But that's an Alabama team that just has a lot of potential if they can tap into it. If they're playing at their best, I think they're almost downright unstoppable. So a little more rapid fire before we go to break. And this will pick up in the following segment as well before we share our expectations for Penn State and Nevada. Do they cover that lofty spread, right? Drew Allar as a Heisman, which is also going to pivot into his stats a little bit here. Do you see him as if he plays a full season, do you see him as a serious contender? Do you see him as somebody that should be considered a favorite? I know he's plus 2,000 in some places, which puts him in that top 10 range. I don't see it. I've had the case made to me that he could get the invitation if he's efficient like Dylan Gabriel. I just think there's a lot of work to be had from Nicholas Singleton and Kaytron Allen that it just doesn't. Drew Allar's just not going to have the volume to be a favorite or even get a top 4 invite.
Yeah, there's been a clear shift, Zach, in kind of Heisman winners and trends, and Caleb Williams and Travis Hunter winning it is kind of discouraging for a player like Drew Allar because he's not going to have those crazy numbers. If the team is 12-0 and they're a number 1 seed heading into that playoff, they're Big Ten champions, he probably should be. Probably won't have the numbers, though. I think about way back when, Mark Ingram was able to win the Heisman over Toby Gerhart with 2 times less his numbers just because Alabama was national champs. Like, that doesn't happen anymore. There's been a shift in voting where 8-4 Caleb Williams and what was Travis Hunter? I don't even know what they were last year, 7-5 or whatever. Like, those guys winning the Heisman shows you it's about numbers now. And I don't think Drew will get there because, we're going to be running the ball at least 55% of the time, if not more, I would think. So,
if I had to give a Heisman prediction, I think Cade Klubnik seems one of the most realistic options because their running back room is uncertain and there is that dual threat upside. If Drew Allar had a little more dual threat, because like you said, they have to protect him. Allar can run the football, doesn't mean that Penn State wants him to. Whereas Cade Klubnik, I almost feel like he has to win some games for Clemson this season.
Klubnik's playing against bad defenses too. You're going to see his, when he plays Miami or whoever he plays in the ACC. I mean, some of these games are going to be in the 40s. He's going to have some real opportunities to put up numbers. They don't play defense in that conference. So compared to the Big Ten where it gets really tough, you need to win games, 22-18. So but again, I know that would be incredible. I mean, we're talking about, the national title hopes, the Heisman hopes. I think if there is somebody on this roster that is most likely to win the Heisman, it's Drew Allar. Real scorching hot take there. But no, I don't think if you look around the whole country that he's really going to be in the mix, and that's okay.
So let's get his stat line before we go. Nicholas Singleton, Kaytron Allen, do they break the rushing record? But Drew Allar, so this is kind of a little more quick, rapid fire. Yeah. Over or under 3,500 passing yards for Drew?
Full season with playoffs?
Yeah, why not?
Over.
Okay. Touchdowns. Let's go 30. Over or under 30?
Over.
Okay. Interceptions. I have it at 5. In my mind, I think 4.5 would be a pretty good line. I don't think he doesn't turn the football over a lot. I go under that.
With the high volume that he might get if Penn State makes a deep run, I'm going to go over.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. So there's Drew Allar's stat line. That, again, those are numbers that are comparable to Dylan Gabriel. So if the voting committee is going to give its due respect, Allar could and should get an invite for those Heisman finalists, but we'll see. Like you said, it's just trending away. It's more skilled player based. Like,
yeah, I wish his playoff stats would be included because I think he can really show out once he gets to the playoff. I think, but there's going to be a lot of games in November where he's out of the game by the third quarter potentially and not having an opportunity to do so.
All right, let's talk other stat lines. Singleton and Allen are both going for the all-time rushing record at Penn State. Do both of them break it? And then who ends up being on top? Nicholas Singleton, though, has an interesting case because he might be utilized more so as a pass catcher, if you can believe that. We're going to talk about it next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by Upside. Hey, Nittany Lion fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code, FOOTBALL, and you'll get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it is totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. So we'll just keep rolling with it. Rushing stats, leading receivers, leading tacklers. Does Penn State win the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line? I think that one is actually more on the likely side than it is unlikely. But with Singleton and Allen, they're going to be competing for carries, for reps to an extent. I think that Penn State's going to run a lot as long as most of this running back room stays healthy. They were dealing with some bumps and bruises in the middle of training camp there. It seems like everything's kind of back to status quo. But Allen and Singleton, I think, will both break the rushing record. There is a chance that Allen actually ends up being on top because I think Singleton is going to be used more as a pass catcher than people expect. It is very realistic to think that Singleton could have easily over 500 yards in the passing game. Right. Allen can catch the ball out of the backfield too. But because Singleton is the better route runner, he is the better pass catcher, he's faster, he's quicker, we know that. We can all agree on that. There's going to be, since he's going to get that passing volume, I think that eats into his rushing volume. I know he has the home run ability, but it's kind of almost like the tortoise and the hare situation where I'm not trying to say Allen's slow, but it's just you feed him, and he keeps getting that yardage through that as opposed to the one singular big play. And like I said, I think Singleton is really going to be utilized more as a receiver than people expect. Kaytron Allen could very well be the all-time leading rusher here for Penn State running backs.
Yeah, I've just been looking at the board. So Singleton needs about 1,020 to tie Royster, and then more than that to beat him, obviously. I think he does that. I think he beats Royster, and then I think Allen is, maybe 50 behind him or less? Man. Yeah, Singleton with that 5.8 a carry in his career, Allen at 5.1. Allen with 60 more carries in his career. Yeah. I think it's trending that way. I do. Yeah. Kaytron Allen, I think when it's all said and done, will be number one ahead of Evan Royster, especially because playoff games count. I think Royster did not get those. So yeah, I'm gonna go Allen and Singleton 1-2 in that order.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, I would put the over-under for Singleton in receiving yards, He had 375 a year ago. I think he could easily get over 500 full season playoffs.
Yeah, he's done it in my college football 26 season. Dude's an absolute missile in the pass game, so I hope they can use him. Man, he's got that Texas route written all over him.
It would be a bold prediction to say that Singleton ends up being the leading wide receiver or the leading pass catcher, if you will. Again, there's so much volume. There's 1,200 yards from Tyler Warren to go around and 8 touchdowns and 100 plus receptions to go along with it. I have a pretty spread out take when it comes to that. I think that Trevor Pena will lead the team in receptions. I think that Devontae Ross, again, if everybody plays a full season, Devontae Ross would lead the team in receiving yards because of that big playability, right? He'll average 20 yards per catch. And then Kyron Hudson will be that red zone target and end up, I think he could easily have 10, 11, 12 receiving touchdowns. So it's kind of all spread out where instead of it being, Allen Robinson or Tyler Warren, where it's just one player that eats up so much volume, the quantity goes to Trevor Pena. The big play threat is Devontae Ross. And then your red zone go-to guy, maybe Khalil Dinkins takes some of that as well. But I could see, that's how I would order it up with Kyron Hudson getting the lead, being the leader in receiving touchdowns.
I'll take one step further. I called my shot last year with Tyler Warren leading the team and receiving. Obviously, that wasn't too crazy of a take at the beginning of last year, but it ended up being true. Luke Reynolds leads the team in receiving. I know Penn State fans they're not going to love to hear that because that would mean that maybe we have some wide receivers in the 800s or 900s. It's going to be okay. There's going to be wide receiver production. When I look back at Tyler Warren, I truly think about how he was kind of buried on the depth chart early in his career behind Brenton Strange, behind Theo Johnson, how he was never really that tight end one until last year, right? And it was only because guys ahead of him left. That's why everybody thinks, well, he got his chance because Johnson went to the NFL and Strange went to the NFL. Andy Kotelnicki was there. And I think that was huge in Tyler Warren being able to show he was an eventual first-round pick, and I think he's set up for a great NFL career. So I'm going to go one step further. I think Luke Reynolds is an absolute star. I know there's been a lot of conversation about him not even being the starting tight end. I don't care. I think he's going to line up in wide receiver sets with Khalil Dinkins on the field at the same time. I think he's going to have opportunities to be more of a receiver, kind of like Mike Gesicki was, than he is even a blocking tight end. I think he leads Penn State in receiving and absolutely blows people away this year. What I saw from him in Sparks last year, man, he looked the part, and I think he's going to take over this year.
Joe Moore Award, kind of quick reaction. I guess we could compare and contrast all the offensive lines that come to mind. But I do think Penn State has as good of a chance as anybody and should be one of the favorites to win the Joe Moore Award for best offensive line this season.
I think they should be. I don't think they will win it, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
All right, defense. So sacks, tackles, interceptions, or turnovers forced. Most people, I think this is fairly easy for me. Dennis-Sutton should lead the team in sacks. I mean, he brings back the most pass rushing production from a season ago. With Abdul Carter, I mean, with him gone. Zariah Fisher, I know a lot of people are high on Chaz Coleman. I'm going to go with Dennis-Sutton. People think I'm crazy to point out the fact that he needs, it's either 18 or 19 sacks this season to set the record. That's why he chose the number 33, because that's the sack record held by Courtney Brown. It is doable. It's not likely, but it is doable. Terrell Suggs had 22 sacks when he was at Arizona State his final season. So when he is the primary pass rusher, and I do believe that he's a first-round pick, it is not out of the... It should be expected that he has 12, 15 sacks, especially if you play a full 17-game slate, 1 sack per game. Well, there you go. You're pushing the record.
Yeah, I agree. I'll go a little contrarian here, and I'll say the addition of Amari Campbell is going to free up Tony Rojas to have the most sacks for Penn State in 2025, which I think he'll be right around Sutton. But I think Rojas is going to have a monster season when it comes to pass rushing as well.
I would think that he leads the team in tackles.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Campbell with that one. Okay. I think I trust Campbell as a Mike linebacker. Obviously, Knowles gave him the green dot. We heard that this week. Not a great situation for him at UNC, but I think Amari Campbell will be a great Mike linebacker for us.
Turnovers is also a pretty easy guess. I mean, Zach Wheatley. He's been
no doubt
the defending turnover king. But I will give you a dark horse here, and it's Antoine Belgrave-Shorter.
Yeah.
I think Antoine Belgrave-Shorter, he was the turnover king in this training camp. So I don't think it's far-fetched that if people want to avoid Zach Wheatley, Antoine Belgrave Shorter is lurking in the secondary. Both of those guys have turnover prowess. But where I will say that I'm probably still going to lean Wheatley is because he is playing a different type of safety role in Jim Knowles' defense. They have brought him down closer into the box as opposed to being that center fielder, last line of defense type of situation. So Wheatley will get his hands on the football more often than not, whether that's to force a fumble, get an interception. He gets a better read on the quarterback as opposed to being no doubles defense in formally.
Yeah, I want to say AJ Harris. Wheatley's a good one too, but I think I'm going to go Zion Tracy just because that nickel role has generated a ton of turnovers in this defense over the years. I know Knowles probably uses it a little differently, but saw the pick six against Ohio State. That was his coming out party. I think Zion Tracy will have the most interceptions.
All right. Any week one I think that pretty much covers a lot of our season stat predictions. Against Nevada, again, briefly, it's a game that Penn State will win by a lot. I've said 63-7. This team just has so much that there's no, hey, we need to figure this out. And Nevada's bringing in over 60 brand new players. It's almost not fair just with where each team is. And Nevada has acknowledged that. Jeff Choate, the head coach, has acknowledged that. So I'm expecting total domination by Penn State, and you'll see some backups in against the Wolfpack too to get those meaningful reps.
Yeah, quick note on the Wolfpack. This team was dismal under Ken Wilson. They got rid of him and got Jeff Choate, who's a great coach, I think. Yes, you look about some of their games last year, they were like 20-plus point underdogs to SMU. They found a way to cover and almost win in week 1, week 0. They upset Troy. They took it to the wire with Boise. Yeah, I get it's a brand new roster. That's probably a good thing. Jeff Choate's probably happy that he finally has some guys in his second year that he wants to bring in. So if you're talking FIU, you're talking Villanova, I'll agree with you. I don't think Nevada's going to sneak up on you either. This is the last thing I'll say. Of the 3 games Penn State has to play here in this quote-unquote preseason, this will be the closest. And when I say closest, I don't mean it's going to be in question that Penn State wins, but I think it'll be more competitive than FIU or Villanova. But if Penn State gets up 30, I want all the starters out. 30 is the magic number for me. Just as soon as you're up 30, I don't care what point in the game it is, get the backups in, maybe mix a few starters in so they're familiar, but I don't want to see any starters on the field if we're up 30.
And that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. My name is Zach Seyko, your host as always. He is Matt Freiler, the artist known as Matty Fresh. Also, Matt, by the way, a fire song, really, that is the perfect anthem for this season, for this upcoming season here for Penn State, with all the expectations.
Yeah, it's a tailgate soundtrack that we haven't pulled off before. I appreciate your kind words on that, Zach. My producer and I, Camp Sunday, really wanted that kind of love letter to Penn State. I know a lot of people were disappointed we didn't get a Drew Allar song. You never know, right? The studio's always open for the future. But for now, enjoy the tailgate soundtrack, and let's have a great time. We're finally back to where we wanted to be.
And a friendly reminder, let us know your thoughts down in the comments section. If you're not an everydayer, become one. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day, your daily source for all things Penn State football, Penn State recruiting, wrestling, basketball, you name it, all right here on Locked On Nittany Lions.